The Bengals lose to the Jets in embarrassing fashion. Is it the worst loss in Zac Taylor's career in Cincinnati?
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. That was a disaster on Sunday in New York. The Bengals go into the Meadowlands and lay an egg, especially on defense. And that's really where it starts for me, is the defense gave up 34 points to Mike White and the New York Jets. And not only did they give up a bunch of points to Mike White and the New York Jets, but they did it by failing to even come close to containing the Jets offense, which has been miserable this year and is starting a first-time starter. So, a few themes there, right? One of them is the Bengals can't seem to beat first-time starters just throughout their recent history for like the last 10 years, but not a whole lot of positive to say about the defense in this one. Like, they get the turnovers early off of deflections. There's a really nice strip for Von Bell after they give up a 20-yard completion. But after that, things really got away from them, and those early starts where the Jets were moving the ball, but the Bengals were getting the takeaways were really ominous for the rest of the game, and the rest of the game went about as badly as it could.
Awful, 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 awful. How many times did we see the Jets punter? 0 in the second half. They scored on 5 straight possessions, and then they run the clock out, and we can get to the call, but that's not why they lost the game, so I don't want to hear it. I'm not going to make the excuse, and I shouldn't have even mentioned it this early in the podcast, to be honest with you, Jake. This defense, that was the worst performance. Honestly, given the expectations, the worst performance by Lou Anarumo defense, period. Because the expectations were extremely high. Not low, not, oh, well, we'll see what Lou can do, or, oh, like last year, the defensive tackles are hurt. No, it's, man, look how healthy these guys are. They're extremely healthy, and they're going into this game against Mike White on Halloween night, full of fright. We'll just keep on rhyming. Instead, now, all these Bengals fans are going home, the ones that were up there that went to New Jersey, and I'm seeing tweets, of all these fans. You go home unhappy, and it's sad because there's no way they shouldn't have been able to slow down this ridiculously, I think, simple Jets offense. I mentioned Jamison Crowder about 52 times. All right. Ty Johnson. Okay. He's capable of catching the ball out of the backfield. All right. So is the rookie who it slips my name. What's his name? The rookie running back, Michael Carter. Like it's all like quick stuff. Elijah Moore. Like, we mentioned the names. Did they just not pay attention? Like, and I get it. Mike White played a little better than expected. But according to Elias Sports, he's the first quarterback since 1978 to complete his first 11 passes in his first start. What are you doing? And I get the 12th was an interception, but you're right. Like, as cool as it was to force 3 turnovers, can you force one when it matters? I know that sounds bad, and the offense let him down on that first one, but man, what a rough day for this defense. I agree. It was just a rough outing.
I mean, that's the headliner, right? Mike White, 37 of 45 for 405 yards.
405. That's an
Who is Mike White, man? The guy was pumped up and he was playing well. I mean, the 2 picks you could even say weren't necessarily his fault. The one comes out a little bit hot, a foot off, and gets tipped to Jesse Bates. The other one hits his running back in the helmet.
Yep.
And the other turnover for the Jets comes when Jamison Crowder can't contain the ball downfield. Michael Carter, though, had a huge day, and this goes into your point, James, that it was a simple offensive game plan for the Jets. Yeah. It was like slants, flats, screens, and Jamison Crowder in the slot on comebacks, and then the occasional seam shot. Like, there's nothing fancy here. And I feel like early in the game, Lou Anarumo tried to blitz Mike White to make him uncomfortable, to try to, set the tone for the game, and they got some pressure. They got some hits on him.
Yeah.
But he knew where his hots were, and the Jets had a few screens called into the blitz, and the Bengals, for the second straight time, they've played a really awful team. And I thought the Lions were better than the Jets and better than the Jaguars when the Bengals went to play the Lions in Detroit. But this is the second time comparing it to the Jacksonville game where the play action game, the misdirection game, all that stuff really got them early and was a reason the Jets were able to stay in the game early. And
Yeah.
then to me, Lou Anarumo's defense tries to adapt, right? And they start playing a lot of zone. They start trying to, keep the ball in front and then tackle. And then they just stop tackling. I mean, there are a couple times they could have actually gotten off the field. I think a 3rd and 11 comes to mind, 3rd and 12 maybe,
Yes.
where it's
Yep.
Michael Carter in the flat, I believe, or maybe it was Ty Johnson. I can't remember which one it was, but there's
Who
nobody with
cares?
him. Nobody
Yeah.
goes with him. Like they sell out on the 0 and then there's nobody there and the 0 doesn't get home. They actually try to drop some guys out. And so, out coached, out schemed, outplayed, the top to bottom failure for the defense in this one. And it's just,
It can't happen.
It's rough. Yeah.
That's what. It can't happen. At some point, you have to lick your wounds and say, all right, well, Mike White 11 for 11, or, oh man, the Jets just scored and, it's 31-20 or what? Yeah, it was 31-28. Well, we're going to, or 26, because they didn't get the 2-point that time. We need to stop. We need to stop after the interception where Joe Burrow, who played pretty well today, I thought, it's an unfortunate interception. He's got a lot of those. It's really weird. He's got a lot of weird interceptions this year. But we can get to Burrow. This defense was supposed to be better, and they didn't need to carry the team today. They didn't. They needed a second half stop, and instead they gave up 17 fourth quarter points. Could not get Mike White off the field, and it's deflating for what the Bengals had, all that equity. Now you drop to 5-3, you're second in the AFC North. This talk about being first in the AFC, well, good luck, because that's not the case anymore. So, what a letdown. That's really what it is. It's a huge letdown on in a game that, again, 7 minutes to go, 31-20. You should cruise. It should be done, and they couldn't put it away. And I think it starts with the defense.
The Bengals were 98.5% according to ESPN's win probability model to win when they were leading 31-20. And the second half really gets off to a good start. The bend don't break brand of Lou Anarumo defense, it was doing what it was designed to do. At first, the Bengals punt on their first possession of the second half, which maybe was more ominous than I initially gave it credit for, as they've been so good in those situations. But then the Jets go long drive field goal. The Bengals answer with a quick, explosive touchdown drive. Then the Jets go 10 plays, 69 yards, field goal. The Bengals again answer with a touchdown. So when you go 14-6 coming out of the half, you usually win those. And then Joe Burrow, like you said, weird pick, batted up in the air. And then, we'll talk about the last drive of the game, and we'll talk about the call, because that call actually does need talking about. Like, it's not the deciding factor of the game, but I don't know if I've ever seen a call that bad. But anyway, there's more to talk about with this game, and that's kind of the high-level tale of it. The defense let the offense down. You score 31 points in the NFL against the New York Jets. You should win. We'll talk a little bit about the offense and some of the things that went right on that side of the ball and some of the things that were frustrating coming up next.
Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff, and you watch sports highlights on your smartphone. Well, you can bundle it all together and get it all together and make it simple. TV should be simple. It's for your entertainment. It's for your enjoyment. And you can get it all together with DirecTV Stream. It brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before in one place. No more juggling remotes or fumbling on Halloween night. Oh, shot at the Bengals. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
Well, I think the one positive out of this game, if we're going to be positive for this show at all, James, I thought Joe Burrow actually played pretty well. There were some frustrating things for sure. I mean, I've never seen Burrow as hot as he was coming off the field for two of those drives in the first half. Threw his helmet twice. Mm-hmm. And one of them's after Tyler Boyd and CJ Uzomah seem like they run the same route and the ball splits them and nobody goes for it. He thought Tyler should have caught that pass. And then the other one is Jamar Chase dropping a touchdown, and then they end up not making it on fourth down, turning it over on downs from the 1 yard line. And so Joe Burrow's probably sitting there thinking, man, I should have had 5 touchdowns in this game. We should have won 50-34, I guess, if the defense was going to do what it did. And outside of that, the offense actually was pretty good for the most part. I mean, there were some early slow struggles, and you point to those certainly when you look at the result of the game, but there's a lot of good in this game, I think, for Joe Burrow and T. Higgins.
Yeah.
And Tyler Boyd.
I the fact that they didn't score a touchdown at the end of the first half, like the chase drop, it was bad and he can't do it. And by the way, for all those that rip me for mentioning his drops, see, they are real and he does drop passes once in a while. But we knew that was going to happen. And I think they put themselves in a position. They tied the game, then they took the lead. And I believe the Uzama Boyd one was at the 21-7. Instead, they settled for a field goal to make it 17-7. Yeah. And so then the Jets have a little bit of momentum. And then Mike White, give him his damn gold jacket, marches right downfield and scores a touchdown. And so worst case, if you score there, it's 21-14. And I don't know if that happens. I mean, if you go up 21-7, who knows, right? And instead, it was 3 straight passes, 3 first downs, and they were off and running, and it was 17-14 at half. So, yeah, I agree. I think that was a big play. But the thing that gets me with this offense is just how damn inconsistent it is. And I think they finished, I have it here, I think 41 rushing yards total, which, okay, like that's fine. Like I'm okay with that. But you're going to have to generate more than the 18 first downs. Like everything was just slow motion. Their first 4 drives, they were, net. And I know it was weird because they had short fields because of the turnovers, but it's just, that can't keep happening. It just can't, because there are going to be times where this defense isn't great. And now we know for sure that they're human and that they're going to give up points. And this is the defense I kind of expected to see at times before the season started. And it was going to have to be the 30-plus point type games, or the Bengals offense is going to have to win. And so, I want the offense to be comfortable on days like today and be able to make the plays on days like today and put games away like this, where, yeah, it might be 38-34. And you have the quarterback to do that. And let's go to the end of the game. It's 34-31. The Bengals get the ball. And to me, it just felt like they needed Joe Burrow to be Superman. And it's not always going to be in the cards where he can save you. And that was one of those situations where he didn't save you. And, whether it was the line, whether it was Trey Hill playing right guard because Jackson Carman goes down, whatever the case is, when you put yourself in that position, it's tough no matter who's at quarterback.
And how about Trey Hill being the backup right guard, by the way, instead of Deontay Smith? I found that a little bit interesting, but I guess they like him more there. Yeah, that last drive of the game for the Bengals offense, they lose Jackson Carman to an injury. That's really unfortunate. That comes on a Joe Mixon run. And then the 2nd and 5 play, this is one of Joe Burrow had some great throws in this game. And this is where we started the segment. His deep crosser to T. Higgins on the post that goes all the 54. Way to the other corner is 50 yards in the air and is on a rope. Great throw. And then here on their eventual last drive of offense for the game, he manages to sidestep the aforementioned Trey Hill's defender, who got immediate pressure. It was immediate pressure. Takes a couple steps to his left, and then there's a guy that's about to crush him, and he throws a seed. He throws a dot to the sideline to Tyler Boyd, and they get a 19-yard play out of it. And then all of a sudden, they try to run it from midfield. It goes for a loss, incomplete, and Burrow takes a sack. And there's a penalty on that play on Trey Hill as well. But you can't take that sack if you're Burrow, and you can't really have those 2nd and 11. You have to turf it at Samaje Perine's feet because your play didn't work.
Yeah, and that's the one that you're right. That's because now you're in 3rd and long, and you have a rookie, at guard that you don't trust. Let's be honest, you don't. I mean, he's had 3 penalties, it seems like, in 3 quarters. That's brutal. So yeah, that's the key play. As bad as 3rd down was, 2nd down, you because it takes away the quick game. It takes away anything where you're going to have any catch and run, get 7 yards and make it 3rd and manageable. And that one stunk. I don't blame Burrow for doing it. I hate that there was nobody open and he felt the need that he had to.
Yeah. Like, I don't know what the play is there, but the idea to me on 2nd and 11 needs to be find a way to get yards. Like, even if it's 6 yards, because you're in 4 down territory here. And I think they
Mhm.
were in 4 down territory until he took the sack. And then at that point, it switches to be like, okay, well, now we have to punt and we have to get a stop. And, well, I guess now we talk about the penalty
Yeah.
because they did get the stop. And this is one of those kind of tricky conversations where, on the one hand, yeah, the Bengals absolutely deserve to lose that game. They got busted by Mike White's Jets on offense. The defense played poorly for the entire game, as you mentioned, James. No drives. One drive for the Jets ends in a punt in the first half. One drive ends with a punt. It was fair caught by Darius Phillips, and then they get this one stop, and it's slot corner Mike Hilton on Ty Johnson on a little check down to the flat, and they I'm thinking, okay, great. They made the good tackle. They did what the defense was trying to do here in the second half, which is keep the ball in front of them on 3rd and 11, which they get to after Chuma Doga false starts, and they come up and make the tackle, and he did. And Mike Hilton's head is roughly at Ty Johnson's waist level, and Ty Johnson braces for contact, drops his head into Mike Hilton's head, and we get a helmet to helmet, unnecessary roughness, defenseless receiver type call.
Yep.
And there are a lot of worsts in this game. Is it the worst loss for Zac Taylor, which we'll talk about? Is this the worst defensive performance compared to expectation for Lou Anarumo? Well, this is one of the worst calls I've ever seen. I mean, it reminds me of Justin Smith sacking the quarterback and getting called for roughing the passer that one time. Like, I just don't understand how the flag comes out here. And, well, it did.
It's asinine. It was ridiculous. And, here's the problem with it, honestly. I'll take my orange and black colored glasses off. It's Locked on Bengals, so I'll just preface it with that. The NFL should hate that call because what the NFL should want? Mike White and the Jets are competitive, and they're up 34-31, and red zone's going live to Joe Burrow trying to escape New York with a win on Halloween afternoon. And so that BS call, and I'm trying to keep it PG because I know we have a lot of parents that are listening with their kids, and thank you for listening, is the exact thing the NFL shouldn't want. And I know Trent Green on the broadcast talked about, player safety, and I get it. I get why the rule's there. I get that. That should not have been called because it wasn't a safety thing. It was a nice tackle by Mike Hilton. And if anything, and it was Ty Johnson, dipped his head, right? Or was it Michael Carter? Either way, no, I get him confused. Johnson. Yeah, Ty Johnson. They're both catching 52 passes out of the backfield, and the Bengals are surprised. This is the one time they weren't surprised by it, and they actually defended it. And the fact that Joe Burrow doesn't get another shot is ridiculous. And if you're any of the owners, including, like, think about it. If you're the Jets, it's all about money and revenue and ratings and all this. Man, you want, like, big picture, you want the ball to go back to the star quarterback to see if he can get the job done. And so now going back to the call and how it impacts the Bengals, the moment, I don't know about you, I knew the Bengals weren't stopping him then. I was like, there's no way. And I know it was close, and they did the quarterback sneak, and they had their 3 timeouts. It was over. I could, that's it. Wrote the headline for my gamer, did the first paragraph, had everything else. And that was that. And so when calls like that decide it, or not decide, end the game, that's tough. At the same time, and I think a lot of fans actually feel this way, it never, ever, never, ever, never, ever, ever should have gotten to that point. And when you put yourself in that position and you're asking Mr. Official, Mr. Referee for some help, sometimes he's not going to give it to you. Sometimes he's going to help the other team. And when that happens, you want to be up, not down, so you're still in position to win. And unfortunately for the Bengals and for Joe Burrow and for Zac Taylor and company, they were not in that position.
Yeah, you can't let the officials decide a game like this where you're an 11-point favorite and the preponderance of Vegas money was on the Bengals to cover 11 points or whatever it ended up being. That doesn't change the fact that it's a terrible call. And it was. But, sometimes those go against you and you get punished for it. Coming up next, James, where do the Bengals go from here? Can they get on to Cleveland? We'll discuss it.
Well, they better go move on from Cleveland. And if they need help recovering, it's pretty simple. You guys know where I'm going with this. Already had one of these blueberry muffin Built Bars today at halftime. It's clutch. So are the cookie dough. Look, man, I mean, suddenly I'm in a better mood just by holding these two things in my hand right here. These two chocolate sticks of blueberry and cookie dough chunk goodness. Look, Built Bars are the #1 protein bar on the planet. They're loaded with protein. They're low in sugar. They're low in calories. They're perfect for you. So whether you're trying to make gains in the gym, whether you just want a healthier snack midday, or you're just trying to have a little more of a balanced diet, this is the candy bar or protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Think about this. This is a blueberry muffin with 17 grams of protein. Don't eat the real blueberry muffin. Eat the better tasting, healthier version at Built Bar with Built Bar. And go to BuiltBar.com right now. Promo code LOCK15. You're going to get 15% off your first order. Again, BuiltBar.com, promo code LOCK15 for 15% off.
BetOnline also sponsors this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast and remains the #1 spot for all of your basketball and football betting needs this year. Go check out the new updated desktop or mobile website. Sign up today. You're going to get a 50% welcome bonus when you sign up with your first deposit if you use our promo code Locked On. Again, that's promo code Locked On for a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit at betonline.ag. As James loves to say, that's free money, baby. From basketball to football, you got the baseball postseason going on, UFC. BetOnline has everything you need, and it's the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. Well, James, I think the last topic for today is how do you come back from this? I think you very much need an on to Cleveland mindset. Zac Taylor in his post-game presser kind of said, we didn't get too high after the Ravens game. We're not going to get too low after this one. And while that might be true for Zac Taylor and the coaching staff, I kind of have a hard time buying it about the players right now, right? Like, I do think Joe Burrow and some of these guys were ready to play, but Jamar Chase starts the game with 2 drops. I don't expect this to be a long-term problem with him, to be clear, but a couple concentration drops at the beginning of the game. The defense obviously comes out flat. The offensive line, Riley Reif gives up a bad pressure, big hit on Joe Burrow that leads to a fumble. The run blocking isn't there. So, like, when you come out flat like that, which is what Joe Burrow said they did after a big win, and they've done it a couple times this year, that needs to get fixed. And so we need to see that change happen with this coaching staff and this team.
Well, they weren't the aggressor. They were soft. That's what they did. They came out soft. And whatever that was, however they did it, that's what they did. Robert Saleh in that Jets coaching, they were fired up. He's screaming on the sideline, and boy, were they hitting. They were hitting. They were moving in the trenches on both sides. And the Bengals didn't have that same aggression. They didn't have that same energy. And, that's fine to because that's going to happen. There are going to be times where you don't wake up and you're not as aggressive as you are on other days or fired up. Right? Same thing with us on the podcast. There are days where you have more energy than me and vice versa. But at some point, you need in the NFL, you need to be able to fix it. And they just didn't. And so now when you look ahead to Cleveland, you were comparing it a little bit, and I get why, to the Jags, game and how they came and the things that happened. And it makes a lot of sense. But they rebounded and they recovered after week 1 and then the letdown the next week on the road. Right? Because there was such a high after that win over the Vikings. It was like, oh, maybe this team. And so there was such a high after that win over the Ravens. And so how do they respond now to a team that in Cleveland that is desperate as hell for a win? They are going to be extremely desperate. They're going to pull a lot of stops. And I think it's coaching staff wise too, because now there's pressure. For the first time in Zac Taylor's tenure, and we can get into the question you posed at the top, the first time in Zac Taylor's tenure, there's actual expectations, and not like expectations like win a game here and there, like real expectations to beat the Jets by 11 on the road, right? Like people were disappointed, and the Bengals were, up 3 at halftime, right? So it's not about that. It was how they were winning too. And so let's get to it. Is this the worst loss of Zac Taylor's career with the Bengals?
It kind of feels like it, right? Like this is the biggest favorite he's ever been. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong about that. I haven't checked. I
would be shocked. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong.
that 11, 12 points, whatever it ended up at, is the biggest favorite he's ever been. And his defense gives up 32 first downs on 78 plays. Like, that's almost half of the Jets' plays went for first downs. And then you can't get the answer in clutch time when your offense can't actually do the job. At the same time, you talk about the Jacksonville game. There really are so many similarities, right? The difference between this game and that game is they don't get that roughing call, that unnecessary roughness call to get the ball back, to go down, kick the field goal to win the game. And in this one, they get the roughing call. They never get the ball back. Or, maybe Joe Burrow doesn't throw that pick against Jacksonville and they have a 4-minute drive, which is what they did against Jacksonville to kill the game. And they tried to go to the same formula, running the ball with Joe Mixon and bleeding some clock between Joe Burrow throws. And this time it didn't work out. So you look at those things and you look at the result and you look at the expectations going into this game. And there are a lot of fans that are mad at me today, James, because I'm sitting here saying they should do to the Jets what they did to Detroit. And I stand by that. They should have done that. And that's why this game is so rough, is because they fell so far short of expectations for the first time I've really had them at this level since Zac Taylor became the head coach. So for me, this is definitely the worst loss. Well, I'll just say it. I think this is the worst loss of Taylor's career in Cincinnati.
Yeah. Well, it's fair because now there's expectations, like I said. And I understand. Look, they're not going to win 41-13 every week. So I get that, right? If they didn't duplicate, or what was it, 34-11 against Detroit or whatever the case was, I forget the exact score. But you're not going to crush NFL teams every week. So, like, if they had, when they were up 31-20, if they just get a stop or they give up a field goal and then they go get a field goal or something like that, and it's like 34-23 or 31-20, whatever. Who gives a damn about the betting line, right? Unless you have money on it, fine. But like, if you're the Bengals, you don't have money on it. You're just like, all right, well, we still got out of there with a win. Even at 31-26, you're just, but that's the thing, is I wonder if in their mind it was like, yeah, let's try to get out of here with a win. And when you do that, when you coach like that and you're going up against an aggressive team that feels like it has nothing to lose, that's pulling out all the stops, well, then, and you're clinching a little bit, essentially. Well, then you lose. And that's a dangerous game to play. And so hopefully they learn from it. I said it after the Green Bay game. I think I said it after the Bears game. This coaching staff is still, I think, learning that in this team, learning how to handle success, learning how to win games like they should, because there aren't many games that I think that they're used to saying, all right, we should win this game. They may expect to in the locker room and all of those things, but it's much different when you get all that love nationally all week long. It's just different. Yep. And so how they respond to this loss, an ugly loss, a loss where people like you and me are going to rip them, and rightfully so, how they respond to it against Cleveland next week could define their season and the direction it goes. Are you going to be 6-3 and potentially at the top of the AFC North again going into the bye? Or are you going to be 5-4 and in third place in the AFC North? And is there a scenario? I don't think there's a scenario where they're in last by then, but maybe I don't think there is. But regardless, they have to respond the right way over the next week, which obviously they did not do following their huge win over the Ravens.
And I guess, a couple things there that I want to talk about. One of them is I didn't have a problem necessarily with coaching down the stretch. The first play when it's 31-26, the Bengals come out, they try to get a screen going. They're trying to go get more points. I think the offensive staff and Joe Burrow, at least, they knew they had to go get more points, and it just got blown up by a really good play to tip the pass in the air and come down with the interception. And then I don't disagree with any offensive coaching decisions on the last offensive drive of the game either, besides maybe the run on 1st and 10 from the 49. But again, I get the idea there. They're trying to follow this 4-minute formula to kill the game. So to me, it's more defense, look yourself in the mirror, figure out how to tackle, and Lou Anarumo needs to fix his game. I mean, just the inability to come up with anything to stop this Jets offense, which shouldn't be this monumental challenge. That's a big thing for me. So the other thing that stood out that I wanted to mention, James, is you said, how will they answer the call? And this is one place where, again, I'm going to be a positive here to finish the show, despite this game, is that after these losses, they've generally come out, as you pointed out, and they've done better the next week. They have answered the losses well, just as they've answered the wins poorly. So here's another test. Division game. Can you answer the loss well coming back home to Cincinnati and get that bitter taste out of your mouth after doing this in New York?
Yeah, but no, I totally. It's another test, and if they get to 6-3, you'd rather beat the Browns than the Jets if you have to only pick one. And you should beat both. You feel like you should beat both probably, but of the two, which one's more valuable at the end of the day? Beating the division rival in an AFC North team. Real quick, by the way, here's why I might not have played a little 4-minute game, and I get it. I understand the logic. Joe Mixon hasn't done a damn thing all day, and so it's like, are you going to turn it on now? By the way, they did turn on the rushing attack against the Ravens, so maybe they thought they could. At the same time, he averaged 2.5 yards a carry, 41 yards total as a rushing offense. It just wasn't there today. So I get it. I understand it because it did work against Jacksonville. I don't know. It's one of those things. But no, I don't mean that as in the play calling necessarily. I just mean when it gets tight. I was sitting in this chair and I was like, oh, you really think Burrow's going to get you out of this one? I
was incredibly comfortable at 31-20, and then the defense just took a dump all over the house. That's what they did at the end of the game. It was unforgivable. It was embarrassing, man. That is awful. And you cannot
I thought they were going to win
games like that. That's awful. Yeah. 98.5% to win, and that's okay. Just all you need is one stop or one more field goal. It's just awful. You cannot lose games like that. And the media is rightfully going to slam this team for that letdown performance. But again, the point is, how do they respond from here? This game has to be put in the past, and they've been good. They've been good responding to these games. They've obviously been good in this division, and now they have a chance to go tell the Browns to shut up and take it and lose to the Steelers and lose to the Bengals in back-to-back weeks. And that is a challenge ahead for Zac Taylor and this coaching staff. We'll be back tomorrow when I'm a little emotionally distanced from this game and the embarrassment and disappointment that I feel for the end of that fourth quarter. Until tomorrow, Bengals fans, have a good one.